Well, look, I mean, one of the things that I talk a lot about inside of Vayner and kind of like in general is shit's always going to change. And obviously the timing of those things changing with you having to be kind of at a commission is a compounding effect. When the jockey is on the sidelines and the race changes, shit's going to get hairy. And I think much like where you were when we first crossed paths, you have to reinvent a wheel that works. The problem for a lot of marketers is the last era was very technical and math. This next era is going to be much more art and branding. I love it because I like that more. I don't like it because I know a lot of people are going to not do as well because it's harder. I'm empathetic to that. But I think the first thing you've got to get uncomfortably serious about is TikTok. You're going to have to figure it out, whether it's you, the human, or some other human variable or a character. You is a great play. I would highly recommend for all of you to debate the concept of the mascot. So I believe this next decade of interest graph social media is going to create an opportunity for a lot of people to lean into the mascot, similar to 1950s to 70s television. So we all kind of got a sense of the personal brand. You're living it, I'm living it, people are living it in this room. I'm pretty hot on the scalability of mascots. So if you think about MetLife paying, peanuts a fortune to borrow Snoopy, or what you see from the Geico lizard on a commoditized business like insurance, I'm very hot on that. And one who is good at building a personal brand can also be good, in my opinion, at being the Jim Henson to the Muppet. Something worth debating. I know it's a left field thing, but no different than us all. When I first was doing this, it was crazy. Like a person following you around, everyone thought it was asinine. It was the judgment I had inside my own company, who the fuck do you think you are? And I was empathetic, I understood, but I knew it was gonna happen. So people started having jobs where they were filming people, things changed, right? I think the same thing's about to happen with animation, claymation, puppeteering, and I think, with AR and NFTs, I think some of the people here should really debate creating a mascot and scaling the mascot. And I think a mascot on TikTok scales.
Okay, so let's talk personal brand versus the zombie brand, right?
And the cool thing is you can just do both.
Okay.
So the zombie brand should have a zombie.
Okay.
That's easy.
Right.
That's not even hard. Clearly you need a zombie. Most companies are like, what am I gonna do? And you're like, I don't know, a zombie. So.
And we've got some cool artwork.
But I think you really need to take a step back and be like, fuck it. We'll never be, I don't know how, when you thought about building personal brand, how you thought about where that was gonna end up. But it's not like you have to create fucking Ronald McDonald. If you just create a zombie that is effective to get your CAC and LTV up in the next 24 months, you'll be just fine.
Right.
And unlike retargeting in iOS 15, we still know who the fuck the Trix Rabbit is. We still know who Captain Crunch is. You still know who Scooby-Doo is. People underestimate the value of brand. The reason I've always been more brand than digital sales is digital sales changes. You're living it right now.
Yeah.
I had email open rates of 93%. Shit changes. I was buying the word wine on Google for 5 cents. That doesn't work anymore, right? So I'm always gonna push brand, and I'm very bullish about this mascot thing, very. I think every small business on earth should have a mascot.
So we started.
Including B2B. The thing that everything that's built on with me is based on the fact that I do 96% listening, even though the world thinks I'm talking all the time. So creating scenarios that allow you to listen, because you'll know the answer way faster than I will, it'll be right there in your messages. So, for example, back to the whole jab, 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 right hook thing, maybe you do, I think you would crush, I know you would crush, with the thing that people always get confused about when they're selling their smarts is they don't want to give away things for free, when giving away things for free is the way you sell more stuff. So if I were you, I would do a weekly 2-hour live across all platforms. Use StreamYard and put it on all your platforms, even if you're tiny right now, even if you have 9 followers on your Facebook fan page because you never set one up, from Facebook to LinkedIn to Twitter, YouTube, and do a live 2 hours a week Q&A show about marketing. And you start with, I mean, dude, I was there, you know, like everyone's got such a struggle with like, you know, going back or going, but like, if there's 7 listeners the first week, it doesn't matter because the content saves.
Yeah, I get it. It's not the going back that bothers me. But
I believe that. But the answer to your question is, you got to get the questions. If you get the questions, you'll know what to make in the content.
Because like the who part is really a tough question for me to answer.
Well, the who.
I deal with plumbers. I deal with e-com owners. Like it's.
The who is everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a good.
That's a weird thing.
No, people struggle with that. I understand what you're saying. This is a classic example of the philosophy sounds better than the reality. The philosophy of like target your audience, like know who, like the world is in play, right? The world's in play for you. I think what's really good is the way social networks are now built. There's so much entrepreneurship in those pipes that if you live there, they're there. There's just a lot of people that are doing 250,000 to 2 million a year in revenue that can afford 15,000 a year to dominate their marketing. You just don't know if it's a tattoo artist with 2 parlors in Nevada, or if it's, you know, somebody who's got a B2B company doing 100 million. Like, it's all kind of like there. I think it's more about, do you make contextual creative for the platform? Like, do you know how to make a TikTok that people actually want to watch that may lead to virality that leads to lead gen? Do you know how to make content on LinkedIn that works? Which is why I want to put you in a position to answer questions, because from the questions, you'll figure out the answers.
So can I piggyback off that for a quick second? You don't consume a lot, but everyone here consumes you, consumes other people. The buzzword is authenticity, right? When you're putting out content, be authentic. But I mean, I don't really know what authentic means anymore. When you start consuming so much content, how do you then, you know?
That's a good question.
How do you then break off who you are, which is the sponge that you soaked up? That's
a really great question. You know, I think just the fact that you're even asking that question already has you 90% of the way there. It means you're gonna fight for it along the way. I consume more content than everybody. I just consume it from the people directly, not a middle man or woman in between. So when I say don't consume, it's I don't need Tim Ferriss or Ryan Holiday or Oprah or anything in between. I just need you at this second. The reason my content works so well is I have a leading pulse on shit because I'm reading. And at this point, I'm at such scale that I'm getting a lot of optics. Like, the thought that rich kids were upset because they subconsciously were mad at their parents for paying for everything was very foreign to me. That's not how I grew up. But it became some of the most important content I've ever made for parents and 25-year-olds. That was just by reading them, right? And so you just gotta, you know, in 2014 when I came out of content retirement, I don't talk a lot about not making a lot of content from 11 to 14. It was kind of the biggest gap since 2006 for me, because I was building Vayner and everything was going into that. I started with the Ask Garyvee show. That was my first re-entrance post Wine Library TV. Notice what it was called. Notice what it was. I needed to get the insights.
My biggest fear is, another Gary wannabe. And I'm a business owner before guru.
Yeah.
Right? And now you have so many gurus who want to be marketers.
Take it from somebody who like legitimately is like a real fucking businessman, and a shocking percentage of the world thinks is a motivational speaker and a guru. It doesn't matter. If you're a real business person, then you're a real business person.
Just keep thinking.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who think I'm a fucking scam artist. You know how devastating that is? People are gonna see what they wanna see.
I worry about my own line being blurred, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Content, I'm like, is that really me, or is that me trying to be?
Well, that's where I think the advice we talked about earlier was the most important. Forget about you trying to be anything. If you sit down and you're like, how can I help people? That's why I love this. Like, I don't have a gear right now, other than like listening intently, trying to give the right fucking answers to the best of my ability on intuition and pattern recognition, and then you leave.
Yeah, but that's the best thing I learned from you. When I do speaking events, I sit there and say, I'll talk for 10 minutes. The rest I want to do is Q&A because that's where I thrive.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you should scale that. I think you should do a Q&A show on LinkedIn and pound it in oblivion. There's not enough live content on LinkedIn. The algorithm will reward you.
So
looking towards scale, we want to sell this company for 500 million by the time we turn 40. That's in 3 years.
I would tell you right off the bat, the first thing about that sentence is when I've noticed when entrepreneurs make those kind of ideologies, they dig into it and they tend to make mistakes when they have something good because of some arbitrary number. Like, why not 750 million by the time you're 38?
Because we keep putting a number to it and it's got to keep going up.
I get that. Just make sure you have a good relationship with it. I think
with that number?
Yeah.
Can it change?
Of course.
Okay.
That sounds like a good relationship with it.
Okay.
I just have noticed a lot of people make these crazy numbers, like when I'm 35, I'm gonna sell this for 100 million, and then when I've watched it, I'm like, fuck. They were well on their way to building something awesome, but because they fucking put this outcome on a pedestal, they did this M&A deal, and then they did this, and it all kind of unraveled. So, just even you saying, can it change, already made me feel a hell of a lot better. Like, having ambition is an incredibly beautiful kind of framework. Sometimes people dig a little bit too deep into numbers, and it changes their decision making, and it hurts them. So keep going.
The number's so trivial for us. Like, I want to say $1 billion.
It's kind of like the Jets thing for me. Like, I will be very okay if I don't buy the Jets. Like, beyond. I'm okay now, forever, for the rest of my life. The process of trying is the fun.